Another board member. As soon as another board member arrives, we will start the meeting. All right, thanks, folks. Oh, I didn't even see you sneak right by me. Right on cue. When you're ready, Mrs. Hess, let me know.
I'm ready.
You are?
I am.
All right, let's rise and do the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. We'd like to have a moment of silence for a young man who we lost a little while ago, Louis OBGL. So if you would bow your heads for a moment of silence. Thank you, folks. Mrs. Schaefer, roll call, please.
Pastor Lindsay?
Here.
Ms. Fisher? Here. Mrs. Hess?
Here.
Mrs. Ellison?
Here.
Mrs. Pandino? Here. Mr. Wiley? Dr. Volpino? Ms. Hill? Mr. Myers?
Here. With that done, can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, number 3, we'll move right to the purpose of the meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to interview candidates for Jen Holzberger's Region 3 vacancy on the school board. Appoint an individual to fill the position for any other business that is properly presented. With that being said, we will move forth. Boy, these things are awfully, if you're moving, to make a lot of noise. Let's move forth with the first candidate, please. That should be Bonnie Green. Dr. Green? Will you have a copy of the questions? She volunteered to ask questions tonight. Give her the microphone. Thank you. I sure don't.
Hello. Is this where you want me?
That's fine.
Okay.
Good evening, Dr. Green.
Good evening.
I first would like to thank you for coming out, spend some time with us, and putting your interest as far as your desire to join the board. At this point, I'm going to allow one of our board members, she's going to ask you a few questions,
Okay.
and then we're going to allow board members, if they feel like they need to ask you a few questions, and if you have some questions or not, afterwards.
Very good.
Okay? At that point right now, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Mandarino. She will read the questions to you, and feel free to take your time with the answers.
Okay, hi, how are you?
Hi.
The first question is, what is your view of the role of the school board?
Well, school board should have oversight over the administration primarily, who then has oversight over the school district to make sure that it is running effectively and efficiently. In doing so, it's important that school board members be appropriately diverse in their skill set and be open-minded. There has to be some level of trust between them and the administration, but then they also have to be able to and be willing to ask the difficult questions to help focus the school towards its strategic vision, which is educating all of the children.
Question two.
Mhm.
What qualities does a school board member need to have to be effective?
Well, I'm going to talk about the commonalities. The commonalities are the ability to listen, to be able to factor in countless variables, thus some level of expertise in some component or all components regarding the educational well-being of the school system, and the ability to collaborate with others. So respectful discourse and the ability to articulate their interests, concerns, and the like.
Okay, the next one is, as a school district, what are we doing well?
The Easton Area School District is providing, by and large, a high-quality education to a fairly large portion of the student population. And they're doing so with very dedicated faculty, staff, and administration.
The last question would be, do you plan to run for the unexpired term in November if you are nominated?
The Republicans have already established who would be representing them, and the Democrats have already been established who would be representing the Democrats, and I was not selected for either one, so the answer to that is no. However, 2 years from now, I will probably be running.
Anybody else have
I have one question,
Mhm.
just follow up to your answer to the first question, is you talked about diversity and skill set.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on that just a little bit? What you meant by that?
Okay. In business organization, as you probably know from my letter, I'm a statistician, and I specialize in assessment, including educational assessment, but also business environmental assessment. And the phrase that's used is called functional diversity. When you look at organizational behavior, what you see is that you can actually calculate an organization's IQ. Fascinatingly, it's not related to the mean of the IQ of the people within the board, nor is it related to the highest IQ of the member on the board. But it is related to something called functional diversity, that every single person has a unique skill set with which they're able to bring into the organization, and that the organization has a clear goal. One of the most beautiful things about any organization, like a school board, is that the goal is clear. We're here to educate all of the children. So the goal is clear. We don't have to worry about what are we trying to do. So now what's necessary on a board is really to have that functional diversity, people coming with different skill sets, different experiences, and different cognitive skills that can help maximize and direct the school and bring that organizational IQ to its highest level.
Yeah, in your letter, you had stated that you have been involved in negotiations, and I was just wondering what the capacity was of that.
Oh, not in negotiations. Eesh. I value anybody who's done that. I've been a member of a union, though. I was an elementary school teacher for several years, and I'm a member of ABSCUF. In ABSCUF, one of the roles that I have, that's the organization for the state faculty members, is that I'm regularly in touch with our state representatives and working with them at the state level. They all know my name. I don't know if that's good or bad, but they certainly all know my name, and that's the role that I have. I understand the challenges of negotiations from a practical perspective, being, a wage earner. but also from how that impacts the students and how that impacts the taxpayer. And one of the things that I always say is that I never lose sight of three really important things. It's the teacher who makes the real difference. One bad teacher can ruin a child's life. A great teacher can change their life forever. But we're here for the students, but we can't ever forget about the taxpayers, because right now there are taxpayers that it's hot, it's muggy right now, and they can't turn on their air conditioner because they don't have the money to pay for it. And I never, ever, ever forget that as I'm striving towards making sure that all of the students in whom I'm working with, whom I'm researching about, whom I'm writing towards, are receiving the best possible education.
Based on what you just said then, how would you see the issue that we face with our budget? What would have been one of your concerns you would have looked to tackle?
Well, it's after the fact, but I did contact the school board when the budget was initially, when the current contract was initially proposed a couple of years ago. My concern that it wasn't sustainable. It's a challenge right now. There's a lot of, and it's not just Easton, it's not ESU, it's all over. There's this battle between the union, limited funds, and administration vision. And it's absolutely positively a challenge. What I would have done, though, if I was on the board, as I would have at that point, is I would have been looking at raises that were more in line with what the taxpayers were experiencing with their raises, which, of course, most taxpayers right now aren't seeing the kind of raises that were included in the contract. That having been said, I was very impressed with the skill set that was used and the collaboration that took place most recently in bringing that a little bit more in balance, so that the teachers were able to maintain their jobs without really losing too much. But there was that give and take.
Your expertise seems to be in the elementary area, am I correct with that?
Well, my teaching experience was 2nd, 5th, and 6th grade, so that was my teaching experience. My research experience is in academic achievement, which goes from pre-kindergarten all the way up through college.
Because the issue I had is if you join the board, in which direction would you try to help the board and help the district? We've been in corrective action at high school for several years. Where does your experience with your education help in your background? How did you help us try to correct the problems that we're having there?
Right, absolutely. It is, of course, always a challenge. One of my areas of expertise, actually, it's the area of my expertise, is called psychometrics. It's measuring humans. And I work both at the state level. I've consulted at the state level with assessing academic achievement for minority students specifically at the college level. But I also work at East Stroudsburg University in the role of the Psychometric Project Development Director, where I assist in helping identify how do we maximize student achievement for everybody. I would probably return back to the research coming out of Educational Trust, and whether I join the board or not, I highly encourage you all to take a look at educationaltrust.org and the research that they have. It's actually fairly clear. What does a great principal look like? What do great teachers look like? What does a great curriculum look like at the high school level? And not just for those kids that are in the honors class or those kids from Forks Township in my neighborhood, but for every single child going to Easton. The curriculum basically looks the same. And given my expertise in curriculum development, assessment for curriculum, as well as things like accreditation and assessment, I absolutely think that I could aid in that area. Have I taught high school students? No, but I teach college freshmen, so I know what they look like when they come out on the other end. And I'm about to have 150 of them in one class in 2 weeks.
The reason why I was asking that because looks like Easton is becoming more, especially in the city aspect, we're becoming a little more of a transient group coming through. And it affects us when we PSSAs, because
Mhm.
if we're doing what we have to do, we're trying to get to the point where we need to be at, even though I think the assessment part of PSA is ridiculous.
Mhm.
I'm looking, because I sure don't have the answer, and I'm sure most of us don't, but we need to figure out a way we can do this. With your statistical background and what you're doing with that, and you just gave us a nice insight to look at. Is there anything on there that might help us with that part of it?
I'll tell you, that is
That's a
probably,
tough problem.
that right there, that is probably the biggest problem that any public school is facing right now, is those young people who are popping in and out, and it's not the children's fault. And in many cases, it's the parents are doing the best that they can. And so it's definitely a challenge. And that there are probably, the first thing that I would probably have to do is get a sense of what have you already tried, what's already in place, and work through there. I know that helping young people get acclimated as quickly as possible and evaluating where their gaps and their strengths are, and having the best possible teachers in those classrooms so that they can help and adapt and adjust is paramount. To give you an example, so I teach statistics, not in the math department, to students who are going, why do I have to take statistics? I hate statistics. And a lot of them didn't do well in math. A lot of them come in who are math phobic. But I'm not kidding. I'll have one person who has failed a math competency exam, which basically assesses them at a 7th or 8th grade math level, sitting next to a student who has taken Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, and gotten A's the whole way through. And I have to teach both of them. There are some very clear teaching strategies, pedagogical strategies that can help a teacher be successful for those two extremes. And I'm guessing that at the high school level, nobody's seeing a 7th grader next to a Calc 3 student in that same capacity, but it is the exact same pedagogical practices. It's the exact same teaching methods that can be put into place. And unfortunately, I would love to say that right now colleges are educating our teachers to do that, but they aren't. And so, a lot of times what's unbelievable to me is really, really small changes in a child's life can result in major changes, 5, 10 years. You can completely change the trajectory of the life. And even though the problem might seem intractable, it's not. It's so important. We can't give up.
In other aspects of the board, you have to understand a little bit of budgeting, buildings and grounds.
Mhm.
Do you have any background in either of those?
My experience in budgeting has to do with assessment of budgeting, aligning the budget plan with the strategic plan. And so, though I myself have never handled any component of budgeting per se, apart from my own household, I'm that person who comes in and I don't have a vested interest in the budgeting decisions that were made. I just come in and assess, okay, are these budgeting decisions aligning with the strategic plan? Are these budgeting decisions maximizing what it is that we say is important to us? And so it's a little bit of a different take than what a whole lot of other people have, but that's the skill set that I would be able to bring.
No one else any further questions? With that, I'd like to thank you for coming out, taking the time, and expressing your point of view. You could either sit and listen to the rest of the candidates
Thank you.
and wait, or you can, we're gonna make a decision tonight, all right?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. This is Freddie. Next candidate.
Hello.
Good evening, how are you?
Fine, how are you?
I'm just fine. How do you say your last name?
Slowly. It's Casper. It's Kasperzak.
Kaspersak. Welcome, Mr. Kaspersak.
Thank you.
We're just gonna ask you some questions.
Okay.
Feel free to answer them. If you have any questions for us at the end, you can throw them back at us.
Okay.
At this point right now, I'm going to more or less allow one of our board members who actually has a question, she's gonna ask you questions. After that, I will allow fellow board members if they have any individual questions for you, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay, with that saying, Mrs. Mandarina will start off with questions.
Okay, the first one is, what is your view of the role of the school board?
The school board. I'm going to have to take a look at that as if I were to join the school board, I'd have to take a look at that and see what everyone is looking at, how they're voting on things. I have to hear what they have to say before I can make any judgments here.
What qualities does a school board member need to have to be effective?
I think you have to have an open mind. You have to be able to work with any party, any union, the teachers, the administration, and just be open to all of them.
As a school district, what are we doing well?
I think you're providing a quality education to all your students. I'm a single parent, and my daughter went through the high school, and she did very well. And I have absolutely no problems with the education that was provided, the availability of the teachers. I thought the education was excellent.
This last question has, do you plan to run for the unexpired term in November if you are nominated? And then I guess I would add to that, if not, what about in 2 years?
In 2 years, yes. I couldn't at this time for the open seat.
Board members? Questions?
Frank was gonna ask. Go ahead.
Frank?
I look like you want to ask one.
You did look like you wanted to ask.
Just maybe just a little bit more, maybe didn't come out, I guess, through some of your responses on the earlier questions, is what do you think that you'll bring to the school board? Maybe something unique that doesn't exist here today? Or
Yes.
something that you'll add to?
I'm in IT, have been for 35 years. I'm a problem solver. I'll take a look at a situation, take a look at all the different aspects, and try to find a way to make it better, make it faster, automate, cut cost. That's what I would look at.
Carrie? You have anything? Mrs. Hess?
Okay. In your letter, you had stated that you weren't concerned about the quality of the education the children receive, but rather with the support and reinforcement of this education through parental and/or family involvement in the home. And I guess my question is how would you go about solving that issue?
Well, first of all, it's going to be what the administration allows, what the unions allow, but I would like to talk about getting family involvement, whether it's classes at nighttime, classes with the parents and children together. I can't tell you how many times I've driven around Easton in the past 4 years behind a school bus and seen children getting off without school books, backpacks, or anything that would indicate that they're doing any kind of work at night. So it concerns me. If they're not getting that in the home, if they're not doing it on their own, we have to try to do something to give that to them. And, providing something possibly at night. I know there's a cost associated with that, but it's something we could talk about, something we could look at.
Also from your letter, you stated that your second area of concern is the expenditure of taxpayer dollars versus what the community is going to receive for the money. What do you mean by that?
What I mean is, you are providing a quality education, and we're, at whatever the, current spending level is, but only some are taking advantage of that. And once again, this goes back to getting the family involved, because we're spending the right amount of money. Or we may have to spend a little more, like I said, to get the parents involved at nighttime with their children. But for what we are spending, not all of the children are benefiting from it. That's my concern.
And I guess I'm gonna allude back to the first question as far as a district, we do try to do that, so what would be your idea on how to get those parents more involved? Because that is an issue that we face every day. So what would be your idea to bring more families to the table?
I'd like to get families involved with early education, first, second grade, getting them involved with banking accounts for children, doing math homework with bank accounts. Parents are going to have to sign on for this, get them into the school, partner with local banks, Lafayette, PNC, who's ever around, who's willing to do this, and create, a win-win situation for everybody involved. Get the parents in the school. I think that's, part of the problem. You'll conquer part of the problem.
And by the last statement you had about a more hands-on practical application and giving the students more of a feeling that the board doesn't have a sense of detachment from day-to-day education. What do you see with that the board should be doing more?
I think if the board makes these proposals to get the families involved, that the families and the children themselves will see your involvement. I don't think there's much that they see at this point. Take a look at the attendance here. I don't think there's any Nielsen ratings for the show, for the broadcasts. But if you make proposals such as this, and it's advertised to the community that this is what the school board, the school administration working together, especially with a public entity like, one of the local banks, I think it would be better advertised, and they'd have a feeling of partnering with you.
The last question I have is, being on the board, there are many different things to it. It's education, budgeting, buildings and grounds. Do you have any background or any expertise in either pretty much any of those three?
Including finance.
Including what?
Finance.
So
Okay.
the budgeting aspect, do you have any background or experience?
No, I
in
don't.
Buildings and grounds?
Nope.
No,
Okay, it's my turn. I listened to a couple of things that you brought forth, and they're a great idea, but unless you have a magic pill, I really would like to explore how you plan on trying to get parents out, because even if you do a sporting event with kids, parents drop them off and disappear. So I would really like to know if you got a home run, please give it to us. I'd like to know
I don't, but what I'm saying is if you offer an education to the parents, okay, to come in and work with their children, and the parents are going to benefit from it, it's my hope, especially in the less educated, that they will come in and benefit from this.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by less educated? You mean those who are struggling?
Struggling how?
Well, you said less educated. I'd like to know.
Okay, not economically, but although they may be at the lower end of the economic scale, but those who are in a vicious cycle where they don't get their education, they don't get their high school degree, and they're working menial jobs, and they don't get involved with their children's education. I'm looking to pull all that together.
Okay, that leads me into my next question. Two things. One, I'll give you this first question first. For last couple of years, we have been in corrective action at the high school level.
Mm-hmm.
And my question to you is, what can you bring to the table, or what could you bring to the board that would try to help us get out of that rut? I'll leave it at that.
I'd have to look in to see what it is that's being offered at this time. Like I said, my daughter was in all the AP side of the high school, so I never saw any type of problems. I would have to take a look into the other side and see what's being offered, how it's being delivered to the children, what their interaction is, how they're responding.
Okay. The other thing is I asked the other candidate, I asked you the same question. Easton itself is turning into more of a transient city. So the problem we're having with PSSAs and various assessment scores and tests and things like that is because of the fact that we are more transient, because we do have a lot of non-English speaking or people who struggle with that.
Mhm.
How do you address that issue?
Once again, if we bring the people in and give them the parents of these children, and language could be one of the subjects that you're teaching.
We do that now. Yeah.
For the parents?
Language.
Okay.
Okay. That's the only questions I have. Anybody else have any? If that's it, I'd like to thank you, Ken, for coming out.
Thank you for your time.
You could join Mrs. Green next to you.
Okay.
And we will continue with the interview.
Thank you. Does he have to just put a circle? Yes or no?
And you go right to the podium. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Well, thank you. How are you?
Survive, I suppose. Thank you for coming out tonight. We appreciate that you're participating and taking part in this process. And with that said, I'm going to actually turn the questions over to one of our board members who will ask you questions, which is Ms. Mandarino. Followed by that, any board member can ask you questions. If you feel like you want to ask us any questions out that, feel free to.
Okay. Thanks.
Millie?
Hi, Millie.
What is your view of the role of the school board?
My view is that the school board has three main purposes. One is planning. The second, and probably the most important, is policy setting. And the third is evaluation. And it becomes like cyclical after the planning sessions. After the policies are set and the evaluation occurs, and then it starts all over again. So those, according to the state, and I believe that's what we follow here, the three main purposes of a Pennsylvania school board are planning, policy setting, and evaluation.
And what qualities does a school board member need to have to be effective?
Definitely, you have to be available. You have to have the time that it takes. I know that this is not an easy job, and that in this economy and in the place we are right now in our nation, in our state, and locally, it is not easy. And you need to have time to commit yourself to this board. I realize it isn't just a once-a-month meeting. There are committees that you need to be available to be on. In addition to that, there are executive sessions, there are expulsions. I think you need to make yourself available to the community, especially the people who are your constituents and who vote you in. You need to be available to listen to them and to be totally transparent in what the board is doing and why. I've spoken to people in Region 3 already, many who have contacted me, and you know, they want to be heard is the main thing. They want to be listened to. They want to have their voices heard and acknowledged, whether or not what they have to say is going to have an impact or not on what the board does. I really believe that this is the message that I'm hearing so far from people, is that they really want to be heard.
As a school district, what are we doing well?
Oh, well, I will tell you that I really believe the district has gotten all over data analysis with our assessments, where Pennsylvania is standards-based, and so we don't have to guess at what the target is. You know, we know what the target is. We know. Our standards are there in reading, writing, math, science, and others are following. We know what the target is, and we know what we have to do. The standards give us very clear direction, and when we give the foresights, which is a state formative assessment, our teachers know how to analyze that data every which way and understand the reports that can be generated. That has made a huge impact on increasing student achievement. We can get reports for the whole district, different schools, whole grade levels, schools by grade level, our subgroups, right down to the individual student. So in many cases, students themselves can look at their, data and think, wow, I really messed up on my open-ended. This is what I have to do next time to do better. And they, in many cases, are creating goals for themselves for the next assessment to reach. So that's one thing that I think has been huge. Using information from the state, training teachers on data analysis. I think individual schools have their strengths and weaknesses. For example, the middle schools and their teaming. I've most recently worked at the middle school, and I've seen what the teachers do at team time. They are in rooms. They are making calls to parents. They are calling students in. They're really doing whatever they can to help increase student achievement.
Okay, well, the last question says, do you plan to run for the unexpired term in November if you are nominated? And I know you were nominated, because that was in the paper.
Yes.
What about after the 2 years is up? Will you do it for the 4 year?
Millie, one step at a time. No, I'm from Easton. I'm here, so, and I don't intend to, fly the coop anytime soon. So, I would hope, I would say yes, I would. It would be my intention. Yes.
Frank?
One question. You talked a lot about data analysis of assessments.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I missed, I didn't hear too much about going beyond that. Analyzing data, and then I think the important part is what do you do then once you understand the data? Are we doing a good job with that also, or what are your views?
Yes, I do. I do believe that teachers have been well trained on what that data means. It's not, well, here's a report, and then they say, okay, thank you. They're using that data.
When I hear data analysis of assessments, there's a follow-on step that I think
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, our teachers use that data to inform their assessment then, inform their instruction, excuse me, for the next assessment. You know, it's teach, assess, teach, assess, teach, assess, and
Thing that you think is happening well?
yes, I do. Yes, I do. Well, yes, because I've been involved in some of that planning for that training, and yeah. And the state does a good job of that, I have to say. I think our state is really doing a good job.
This is a question I forgot to ask the others, and I really wish I would have. You've been in the district for so long, and now you've retired, so why do you want to get back involved in the board?
Well, I've always looked for the next thing. You know, when I was a teacher, like once I got complacent, I think it was my father who taught me that, like, don't get complacent because, people will bypass you, always look for the next thing. So when I was a teacher, I did a lot of things to help increase my knowledge base so I could help my students. So I have unique experience and knowledge that I don't believe any of the other candidates have. I've worked in most every school as a teacher, and then being an administrator for 2 years, I was really able to see, the district as a whole organization and how each school functions as part of it and the department. So I just believe I have a lot of knowledge and experience that I can now turn around and use from another angle. And, hopefully help the board and help improve things.
What would be your first goal to improve?
Well, overall student achievement. We have the PSSAs to deal with, and until they go away, we have to do our best to make sure that all of our students, not just some of our students. I've always felt that we're not doing well unless we're all doing well. So we have, overall, we do well, but there are some subgroups that really aren't, and, I think we have to pay special attention.
Or you want to ask your question to follow up on that?
I can ask my question. With that being said, you are well aware since you just retired. And congratulations on that part.
Thank you.
We do understand that we are having corrective action at the high school happening for several years.
I do.
And because of standardized testing and that problem, where do you think we need to go with that direction? And I'll hit you with a follow-up question with that.
So just to clarify, your question is what?
I'm asking about what actions you would help bring to the board to help us try to get out of the corrective action problem we have in high school.
Okay, I don't know currently what areas put the high school in corrective action. Out of the 30 criteria, I don't know what they are. So that would be the first thing. I'd have to find that out. And let's look at where we're doing well out there. I know there are areas in which we are doing well. And then look at the areas that we are not doing well, and why not. Find the root cause. We can't keep doing more of the same, because it's not working. So if we have interventions in place that aren't working, it's not even fiscally responsible to keep doing them. Keep paying for them and keep the kids going through them if they're not working, if they're not helping to increase student achievement. So, find out what's wrong, get to the root cause of it, and problem solve together with the administration at the high school, all of us, as a team. What can we do? Everybody has various expertise around the table. So that's part of working as a team. You have diverse expertise, and hopefully you will come together and be able to problem solve better that way.
Some follow-up to that is, you are aware, because you've been here, that we have become more of the transients.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really affecting us from the standpoint of PSSA, so I don't have to elaborate too much on that. With
said, and you being here so long, what expertise could you really give forth with that to the board and the other members to try to help us, try to correct that problem? With so many people coming in and out like we do, it does create a problem for us. Is there something in all your years that you've been around, and we go back over, so give me some of your insight.
Well, Carrie, you're right. We are transient. We have kids who come in and come out and they come back in, and then they go back out. So there is criteria for the state testing that they have to be in school a certain period of time for them to, count, if you will, as a student of Easton. So that's one thing to look at. Make sure we have those dates under control. And then what are their weaknesses? It really goes down almost to the individual student. I can tell you that, I don't want to name a school, but, when I was at one school, we had an 8-year-old come in who had never been in school before, anywhere. And we had to sit down and figure out, where do we begin with this particular student? That's extreme, but it does happen. So, it really gets down to, you got to get in there and see what's what. There's no, one size doesn't fit all. If it did, it would be great. We wouldn't be having any debates about what to do. But that's not the way it works. And everybody's different. All kids are different. So they have strengths, they have weaknesses, even an 8-year-old who never was in school.
Joey, I know you
I
want
just
to
have
bombard.
one more. No, I just have one more. Since you do have the background of administration and we went through our budgetary crisis, what would be items you would address?
Well, I personally don't feel that I would be addressing anything myself. Like, that's the purpose of a whole board and teamwork, to problem solve these things together, to go through different departments. I know different schools, different departments were asked to cut their budget by X amount. They did that, they came back, maybe it wasn't enough. Go back and do it again. I would never presume to make a decision like that in isolation.
No, I didn't mean in isolation. I meant if you were bringing it to other board members or you had an area of concern, where would that be? Like, if we all looked at the budget at one point in time and had certain concerns of possibly where things might be able to be cut, where would you address those? What would you look at? Or what would you be requesting? Because that was one of the things we did, was requested certain areas to be looked at.
Well, I think interventions at all grade levels. I know that we have some interventions in place across the district, and I really don't know that they're effective in helping to increase student achievement. So being able to evaluate those programs, because they're not cheap. Are they working? For whom are they working? All students? Are subgroups that need the help? Interventions can cost a lot of money. There are others that don't, that might be more cost-effective and also help increase student achievement better. So I guess I would say the interventions across the district.
Anybody else? I just have one question.
Okay.
One, and I'm gonna let you go. Why do you want to put yourself through this? You see, you've been here. You see, you've been on the administrative side. You've been a teacher, and you see the hell that we go through as board members. Why would you want to put yourself in this fire?
Carrie, it's the next logical step for me. I mean, that's the way I feel. I feel that I have unique information to share with the board, the administration, the public, about my experience in all of these schools. And I had a fabulous career here in Easton. I mean, I had a chance to teach 8th grade English at the old junior high, well, it's the Northampton Street building now. You know, that's how long ago it was. To be a Title I reading specialist, to be a district reading specialist, to be a literacy coach, to be associate director of literacy for 2 years, go back as a literacy coach. I mean, I had fabulous principals to work with, wonderful teachers, great parents, great students, and I really would like to give that back. And I think I'm uniquely qualified, and I have the time to do it. Every day Saturday now, so.
Thank you. Anybody else have
Okay.
any other questions? With that said, I thank you for coming out and
Okay.
spending some time with us. You can join your fellow candidates.
Okay.
They're sitting right here, and we'll wait and see. We have 2 more to talk to.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Let my husband bring my purse.
Welcome back, Abby.
Thank you.
How are you tonight?
Good.
I guess I really don't have to go over the formalities with you because you just did this a month ago.
I did. And I'm back.
And I guess you're not very well for question, right?
Persistent.
I'm not going to ask you a question tonight. I'm going to ask Mrs. Marinarito to read us some questions. But before we do that, I would like these folks to come in and try to see where we can continue with our business. So I think while you're speaking, we need to have you everyone identify your opinion. Okay, with that done, Mrs. Marinarito, will you proceed?
Hi, fine, thanks.
All right, first question is, what is your view of the role of the school board?
Role of the school board is basically speaking for the people. This is unusual circumstances, but it is an electoral position by your region, the same people. I'm from Forks Township, so it would be that region. And you're hopefully being a voice for them, but in essence, you're also working for the students, for the district, just to keep things hopefully on a positive note to move the district forward.
What do you feel what qualities does a school board member need to have to be effective?
Qualities, that's one of the reasons I'm here. I feel I am qualified because, as I said the first time I was here, I feel it's kind of come full circle. I have 3 children in the district. I've been a resident of Forks Township for 18 years now. I have a husband in the district. I also worked for the district. So I've seen so many different views that I feel I have all that to bring to the board.
As a school district, what are we doing well?
What are we doing well? In my last time I was here, I said my main thing is defending the school district to people, being a realtor. And what you're doing well in, what the district is doing well, I'm from a very large family. Most of us came from Phillipsburg over to Pennsylvania. I have a nephew that came from the district, graduated from Lafayette with a great job. I have a niece that graduated from Lafayette with a great job. I have two nephews that graduated from Millersville and University of Pittsburgh and one at Cornell. To me, that is success.
Okay, do you plan to run for the unexpired term in November if you're nominated?
Well, I've learned quite a bit since the last time I was here. I did plan on doing that. However, I felt like I went back to school. You cannot, as an independent, go for the 2-year vacant terms. They have to be nominated by Democrat or Republican Party. So my only option at that point, after I did all the paperwork and had it all handed in, they called and told me all I can do is go on the ballot for the 4-year term. So that is what I plan on doing.
Board members, questions? Frank?
In your statement, you, said that, I'm sorry, let me find it here. The tough economic times, we need to work together, as one district to get over the hurdles. So what would you be looking at in the budget? What do you think would be areas of the budget that could be looked at that we might be able to help sustain?
Probably before I worked as, and you may find it silly, but as a lunchroom monitor, I probably couldn't answer that the way I'm going to answer it now. But being in the district, I think I saw things that I would sit back and think, why do we do that? I think we could do that a different way. You know, that seems like spending a lot of money or not spending enough at this area. So there's not one per se item that I could pinpoint right now, but from that short term from November to June, I just saw a lot of things that I would like to hope work on, you know, with the board and try to maybe tighten or loosen or what have you, work in those areas.
Have you had any other budgetary experience before this? I know you were,
I did.
I just think for everyone else.
No, that's okay, absolutely. I was a director of a software company way back when. I took an early retirement when I had my second child, which was right after 9/11. I flew around the world quite a bit. I was in charge of all tech support in Parsippany, New Jersey, California, and Latin America. And the company as a whole was like a $72 million company, and I did all the budgeting for the technical support of that company.
You want the district employees, parents, community all to work together to obtain the best resources and environment for our children. What ways would you go about doing that?
Well, I found in my years, my children have been in the district for 8 years now. And I think the biggest lesson I've learned, and a wonderful person told me, you need to be an advocate for your child. And I just think that is something that is not taken so serious. Whether your child is an honor roll student, a gifted student, a not so good student, the school is here to do their job, and we have wonderful teachers, we have wonderful administrators, but the parent still needs to be involved as well. And it's not as easy nowadays because we do have both parents working and what have you, but they still need to get together, and I'm hoping that me being on the board and have gone through that, perhaps maybe I can get that word out there. How would I do that? Well, I do have a big network of every little aspect, and I would hopefully just try to use the views that I bring to the board and have the public see them and hopefully reflect off of them.
Michael?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, one more.
I know you went over this last time, but why are you deciding to get involved now?
Because I'm persistent. No, I need to, I've been thinking about it for years. And now, as I said, my youngest child is full-time in school. And I feel like it's just a good timing in my personal life that I feel I can dedicate the time and efforts to be a good board member for everyone involved.
All right. First of all, I gotta ask this question. You come from a large family?
All right, so I'm not as large as yours, no. I'm one of 8, and my parents have 21 grandchildren.
You know how many.
All right. That's large enough for me, okay?
That's all right. Don't worry about it. I have two questions. First part is corrective action. You are well aware the high school's been in corrective action for several years. And I think my question to you is there anything in your mind that you might bring forth to the board or even to the district that you might want to spill out or put out to people, put out to us to figure out a way of trying to get out of the problem?
I'm aware of it, but I'm not well educated on it, that I don't feel right answering, like, what I could, without really studying what, has gone on.
The other one is we have become a transient population. And with that being, creates a problem because of this standardized testing scenario. Because of that, sometimes we're not quite, and each time I get this question, I come with a different approach. We're not quite understand or quite balanced in the way things are, because the simple fact is that we are getting hit with folks of diversity who are coming in here. And with that, do you have any kind of approach that you would like to bring to the board on how we could correct that problem?
I don't quite understand the question.
I'm asking the question of the fact, I'm trying to get to the bottom of, because we are transient, understanding that we're transient. And because we are transient, with the kids flowing in and out of schools like they are, when they're tested, our test scores seem to dip. Okay, and I'm trying to get a feel from all the candidates where they feel we can improve with that particular subgroup.
Yeah, so you're saying, how do we bring our test scores up?
Well, yeah, how do we teach the kids even better?
How do we teach kids even better? Well, again, I'm going to go back to, it needs to start in the home.
I know we've heard that from several candidates.
We have good
If we get too close to these parents, they scatter. That's a problem we have in the city, but I understand where you come from, and I think it kind of answers the question. Anybody have any other questions? No other board members? Well, I think the next step is we can bring your fellow
Okay,
candidates and
thank you.
decide what we're going to do.
I'm going to grab this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For coming out, spending your time.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for coming out tonight. First of all, how do you pronounce the last name?
Mosquitis.
Got it. Okay. Doctor. We're going to ask you a few questions. And then some other board members will ask you some individual questions. If you feel like you want to ask any questions, feel free to. Okay.
Thank you.
With that done, I'm going to turn the questions over to one of our board members who will ask you the questions. That'd be Mrs. Manfredi.
Right.
Good.
Question one, what is your view of the role of the school board?
I think the first and foremost, you have a fiduciary responsibility to the electorate and to the taxpayers of this district to ensure that the monies that are collected, those monies that are hard-earned, are well spent to produce a cost-effective education.
What qualities does a school board member need to have to be effective?
It's probably a litany. I'll give you three that my wife thinks I bring, and that's honesty, integrity, and management skills. You have a diverse group that you have to work with in many different circumstances. That requires cooperation, the ability to collaborate. You have to genuinely feel that you're part of a team, which ought to be easy because I can't think of a more important mission than the education of the youth of this district. And lastly but not least, I'd say leadership skills. You have to lead within the region that elected you. You have to give leadership while you're here, I'm sure, in the board meetings. And you have to provide leadership to the students and the population of this district.
As a district, what are we doing well?
What are we doing well? We're surviving in a very difficult economy. We have 3 children. They're now all out and working in professional jobs. Each and every one of them was educated in this school district. As a family, we have a debt of gratitude to this district. They prepared them to be able to go out and seek excellent jobs. I would hope that that is still the main objective of this district today. Like with any scorecard, it's probably a mixed bag. Some things we're doing well. If you polled other people, they would say we're doing terrible. The truth, like most things, probably falls somewhere in between. In any event, no matter how good we are or think we are, I'm sure we can be much better.
Now, since the last question was, do you plan to run for the unexpired term in November if you are nominated, which we know you will?
So the answer would be yes.
What about 4 years?
Pardon?
After the 2 years is up, what about for the 4 years?
If God is so good to me, I certainly would entertain that.
Right?
Yeah, just looking through the letter that you have.
Sure.
One of your items, you talked about management experience, including budgetary responsibility. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. I've worked 32 years in the Easton area school district. Right now I'm on 13th Street. The company that I work for is an international company. One of the positions that I have held in the past was as the head of one of their subsidiaries, research and development, which involved managing over a $25 million budget on over 150 employees that are in different locations around the world. So that provided me with a good bit of experience with respect to managing a budget, attending to business unit concerns, and in the years that I was responsible for it, we came in at or under budget each of those years.
Do you have an example of a challenging budget decision you had to make and how you dealt with that and change management issues you had to deal with to not lose whatever momentum the organization had?
How much time do you have? Especially in the last decade, as you very well know, that the challenges for corporations have been significant. And in fact, I think one of the things I look forward to, if I'm selected for this position, is translating some of those experiences and skills from the corporate world to this public domain. Examples, there's always the decision between what I want to have and what I can afford to have. And of course, business unit leaders who pay for an overhead item like research and development, they're increasingly strict with what they expect. And so looking very carefully between what must be and what is nice to have. That is an ongoing exercise year after year after year, and actually has become more and more challenging. Retention of employees. I've had the unhappy experience of having to conduct a reduction in force. Worst day of my career, having to sit across the table from 10 different employees and tell them that they no longer had a job with the company. People that I had worked with for many years. To balance that out, again, is a very good mission, which is to innovate, to develop new products, to use your creative abilities for the betterment of the company and for the betterment of the individuals that work within the organization. And on balance, it's been a great career. It's been a great job. Is that okay?
Why are you deciding to get involved now?
That's a good question, since the reaction from many people at work are you nuts? And the answer is no, I'm not nuts. I had entertained this about 20 years ago when my children were young, when they were probably 10, 8, and 6. And I was very busy in my career, as I'm sure many of you understand what that stress is. And I said, what better time to influence their education than by being on the school board? Well, I ran, I lost. And I thought to myself, okay, there's other ways you could influence what happens in the district, whether it's speaking at Career Day, whether it's by volunteering for the Pennsylvania Junior Academy of Science. So why now? Well, I've worked 32 years with one company. My children are all grown, but I started as a high school chemistry teacher in Western Pennsylvania, Moon Area High School. My original bachelor's degree is in science education from the University of Maryland. So I have a love and a belief in the power of education. And I think now I can use the sum total of my career experience, my leadership ability, to apply it without having to worry about which teacher my child has and what's happening in their own physical plant. I'm free. I'm free to do the right thing. That's why I'm interested.
Sort of answered other questions right in there with that. Education. Obviously then you've had the budgetary experience. Do you have any background
As far as buildings and grounds?
Buildings and grounds would not exactly be my strong point. The closest is oversight of two major construction projects, one in Finland, one in China, where we built new research facilities. No, I had a team who I could rely on, who was much more skilled in this, and I simply had to learn to ask the right questions.
Okay, I have two questions I've asked everyone the same question. You are aware that the high school itself has been in corrective action for several years. And if you have some insight that maybe you could share with the board, even our community at this point, it might help us try to correct that problem. Maybe you don't. But that's a good thing.
If I had that great insight, I surely would have hoped that I would have brought it to your attention before this evening. My experience with the high school dates back to when my children went through it. I have already explained that they had a stellar experience. I would like to see what has changed in those 10 years that has led us to being in a place where we have to take corrective action. I would especially look to the administration to tell me what the circumstance that has led us to where we are today. And more importantly, what's the action plan to lead us out of that?
My other part of that question was, do you understand that, you've been here a long time, you have seen the changes. One of the biggest changes we have in these areas, we have become more of a transient city. And with being a transient city, we somehow get affected by, which is part of the question that you're looking at, part of the answer of the first part of the question I answered. It does affect us with various scores with PSSA and things like that. I don't know if you could answer because really we've gotten various answers from various candidates, all of which were impressive. But my question to you is, do you understand that problem? Is there any insight, or can you foresee, or do you even know how we might be able to get to the point where we can correct that problem? Because with transient people, some have said, we do contact parents and go that route, but the biggest problem we have with that is if we have transient parents who may not be in the legal fast they will run, but we still need to correct and change and help those kids. So where do you feel we should go in that direction?
Well, the first point would be, as a scientist, I'm trained to look at data. You presented me with the theory, which is that it's about transients. I'd have to first look and see on what basis you're making that statement. Secondly, let's assume that you're correct, that transients is a major factor in the scores. I've been here for 32 years, worked for one company for 32 years, married to the same woman for 32 years. I'm hardly the person to probably talk about transiency to you. However, whether it's transient parents or parents that have been here 32 years, you all want the same thing for your children, which is the opportunity for success. So the challenge in times when people are stressed out is engagement. How many people show up at a school board meeting? How many people apply for an open position? How many people can you get to volunteer for one specific item? If you can develop that engagement, it won't matter whether they're transient or not.
Right? Carrie? Any other board member? With that, I would like to thank you for coming out, sharing your time and your thoughts. And if you wouldn't mind, sit, and we will bring a decision sometime this evening.
My pleasure, thank you.
Thank you. With that said, I would like to at this time thank all the candidates for coming out and expressing yourselves so well and giving us a very good. I find this extremely tough. But with that said, I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda. And I don't care if we're a little behind schedule, just have to be behind. Now we're going to public comments regarding the agenda items only tonight. Is there anyone who wishes to make public comment about this? Now's the time to speak. Feel free. Stand up to the microphone and sign in, tell us who you are.
My name is George Washburn. I don't live in the district, so if the addendum attachment that you had on the website doesn't allow me to speak, tell me now and I won't. I live in Williams Township. Is the TIF,
Excuse me.
Oh, is this on the schedule?
This is not, we're only doing it, we're speaking here.
That's the second.
That's a separate meeting.
okay. That's the meeting I want. Thank you.
This meeting is just for candidates. Anybody else? If not, we'll move on.
We'll move on to item 6, discussion on the Region 3 candidates and interviews. At this point, I will leave it up to the board members to discuss, if you feel free to at this point. It's candid, if you wish to. It's a very difficult decision, I have to agree with you. This whole thing must be done publicly, so let's feel free. Nobody wants to discuss it, you just wanna go right to an appointment. Is that the way we all feel at this point? Carrie? Frank, you wanna go move right to the appointment? Okay, we'll skip the discussion end of it. We'll move right to appointment. We have 5 candidates. Is there anyone of the board members who feel strongly about one or would like to move forth with a name? Or do we need to?
I would like to move forward with Bonnie Green.
Dr. Green is one. That's Ms. Fisher. Is there a second on that, or do we like?
Second, I'll second that.
Mrs. Ellison? To be all fair with other candidates, is there anyone else who feels for it that would like to pull out another name?
I do. Robert Biscuit.
Mrs. Mandarino? Had our last candidate, because I'm not gonna try to pronounce that name again. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay. Anybody else? So it looks like we're in a situation now, we need to decide between the two at this point. So what I will think the proper procedure at this point is to call for a roll call vote of the candidates, of the board members, and on both sides, and we'll see how we go from there. All right? Mrs. Shaker, would you go with the first candidate? That would be Dr. Green.
Mr. Castrovinci.
Yes.
Ms. Fisher.
Yes.
Mrs. Hess.
No.
Mrs. Ellison.
Yes.
Mrs. Mandarino. No. Mr. Myers.
No. And no other reason.
3.
3-3. Let's move down to the next one.
Dr. Moscatus, Mr. Castrovinci.
Yes.
Ms. Fisher. No. Mrs. Hess.
Yes.
Mrs. Ellison.
No.
Mrs. Mandarino.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes, but that's only 4, so it doesn't carry.
42.
So we have to have 5 who passes.
Majority of the remaining members, 5.
We need 5 to pass. So, but neither candidate passes at this point. I bow now to our legal attorney. Do we need to vote again, or do we need to share? Where do we go at this point?
You don't fill the position unless a candidate gets 5 votes.
Now, of the noes, is there anyone willing to change? If not,
We talked last time about what happens. Can you explain that again?
explain if we don't
We don't
seat someone.
see someone with the,
If you don't seat someone within 30 days, the public can petition to have a court fill the slot.
Okay, understanding where we're at with that. Are we still locked at where we are? Are we having a consensus, or do we need to move on and let the legal end of it take care of it for us? Who's our 2 noes?
For Dr. Moscatus?
Yes.
It's Ms. Fisher and Mrs. Ellison.
Okay. Neither one of you willing to change what you got?
I guess one thing I'd ask everyone to consider here is, we have an open seat for a handful of months here. There'll be an election in the fall to
Yes,
fill
it
it
would be.
permanently. I think we have a lot of qualified candidates here. alternative, maybe the other option, I guess, to fill that seat.
My other question is, if that's not the point, is there anybody else on this list that this board can, as consent, can get 5 votes out of a consensus? Fellow board members.
Carrie, I'd be willing to change my vote.
For
If I
doc-
had to know,
You were willing to change your vote
right.
for
I
Dr.?
think we need to fill the seat.
Okay.
I think it's very important. I agree with Frank to that extent.
So if you change your vote, we would have 5, and Dr. Mosquitis, is that, Mosquitis would be the new board members that you're
Right.
agreeing to? Is that a consensus? Does anybody else have a problem with this? Were we fine with that?
Got 5 affirmative votes. Yes.
With that being said, Dr. Mosquitis, you need to come up here, please, sir. With that, you have just been appointed to the board of the Eastern Area School District with a 5-to-1 vote, and I would like to congratulate you on the appointment. And before we do that, our legal counsel will swear you in as a new board member. Congratulations.
Do it better than John.
And you want- he's gonna bring it down, so you know.
I think I saw this last
I'm not John Freund, so raise your right hand, please. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Congratulations, welcome aboard.
Congratulations, sir. You might as well, take your seat. Right next to Mrs. Ellison. With that said, folks, I think, this board did a nice job tonight of going through the candidates and coming up with one that they felt can fulfill responsibilities Ms. Holzberger has left us until the end of November. With that being said, can I have a motion to adjourn? Second? All those in favor say aye? Aye. Okay, we will reconvene in 15 minutes. That's about anybody do whatever it takes.